What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Scott, I learned my lesson in that first recording attempt. I'm not going to slam my hands on my desk like Aaron Boone getting mad at the podium, because what that does is it breaks my entire setup, and then I no longer have audio or video. And so, not going to do that. However, I was going to do that to mock Aaron Boone.
Yeah, it was pretty funny for everybody listening. This is take 2. 5 seconds ago, Andrew was doing his impersonation of Aaron Boone, slamming his hand on the table. Then everything went black. Every plug got unplugged. The whole thing went wrong. And that's, not too far off of what's going on right now. Everything is going wrong. It's all gone to black. There's no right answer. There's only wrong answers. There's regurgitation of lines that we've prayed that would never come out of the man's mouth again. And all the comparisons. I actually listened to a Francesa rant for 25 minutes. I did. Just because I felt nostalgic, I think, about listening to him.
Current rant? No, this is like a
current rant. He's got a podcast. Yeah, on some other. He's got a pod. He's still talking. You think you're gonna you get silence, Mike Francesa?
I just figured he's talking. I figured he's talking just to a wall. Like no one's recording it. He's just talking to a wall.
The only reason I see any of his stuff is because Funhouse on Twitter continues to. He still put it, and this time he zigged a little bit and actually put up a link to a long rant that was pretty good, compared it to vintage Jordan. So this is, it was pretty good. It took me back, and Francesa was spot on the whole time. Just, accentuating the way that he would describe something, or, how Cole just completely failed, and would emphasize it multiple times. And he's right, man. Like you start going back and you're seeing all the stats and numbers that are flying around social, and people are talking about them, about what the Yankees have been since June 6th, which is the last time the Yankees won a series at Yankee Stadium, which is wild. You look back.
It's going on 2 months.
There was a large run of Yankees winning series. They haven't won a home series.
Who did they win that series against?
Minnesota Twins.
So what you're saying is that doesn't really count.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to go that far back to find another one, but since June 6th, they're one of the worst teams in baseball. I mean, the rivalry of bad records is, the conversation includes the Chicago White Sox, which historically terrible team, terrible up and down that lineup, up and down that franchise, up and down that whole roster. It's just, they're a dumpster fire, and that's where the Yankees are right now. And it's a miracle. It's a miracle that they are, I think, a game and a half now out of first, because the Orioles have also been struggling mightily. The Red Sox have won one game since the All-Star break. So, are things terrible when you're looking at the situation and where they are currently as it stands in the AL East? No. But all that's doing is masking the problems that exist currently with the New York Yankees. And I know I've brought up the fact that the Yankees have scored the most runs as of yesterday or 2 days ago when I looked it up in baseball. And it's crazy. It is crazy. You look back, and I know the Milwaukee series, they scored, I think, 36 runs. I went back and counted. You take away half of those runs, and they're still in the top 3 of runs scored. And it's so incredibly dependent. I think I saw some number floating around, Katie Sharp number, maybe it was close to like 40%. That is the Judge and Soto effect, as far as like the number of runs
they've produced. 40% of the. I would have thought
it's something. Honestly, it's something like that.
It's more.
But they have absolutely been a 2-man team, and it's scary to think what happens when and if Judge were to go into a prolonged slump, or Soto goes into a prolonged slump, because there ain't nobody there. And one of the things you're looking at Aaron Judge right now is go to Tuesday night, and I know we're going to hit on this as one of the negatives, and maybe we should just do that right now. But the fact that Aaron Judge was walked 4 times, it took a former Yankees coach who was under Aaron Boone for many years and who had been in the organization for many years, Carlos Mendoza, to say, you know what? I'm not going to pitch to that guy. I used to watch him every single day. I know how good he is. And when Boone rolls out a lineup of Jahmai Jones at 1 and J.D. Davis at the 4 spot, giving literally zero protection to the two guys that are your entire team. Mendoza said, cool. Thank you, Boone. Appreciate that. Let's expose how bad of a manager you are right now. And I'm just going to walk the guy that does anything.
That is the first negative. The Tuesday lineup was the most pitiful lineup I've seen since the days when the Yankees were trotting out Jason Nix and all of those guys up and down the lineup in 2013 or whatever season that was. Jahmai Jones leading off, seemingly just because he's a righty and they're facing a lefty. Obviously Soto, then Judge, and then JD Davis hitting cleanup, protecting those two guys. When's the last time JD Davis got an at-bat? Was it like weeks? How long was it? Volpe, Torres, Verdugo, which has just been three of the most disappointing players for the Yankees all season. Carlos Navarez, who's making his first career start. And then DJ LeMahieu, who, other than the home run he hit on Monday, has been the worst hitter on the team, maybe the worst hitter in baseball. Absolutely nothing from this guy. That lineup was so damn sad. I'm surprised the Mets didn't walk Soto and Judge every single time they were up. And to cap it all off, to make it even worse, Judge gets up in the ninth inning as the go-ahead run, and he whiffs. I know people are like, and they mentioned this on the broadcast, well, when you don't see a strike all game, it's pretty hard to get up there and then start to have competitive at-bats. He saw a fastball center cut in his first pitch, okay? And then he struck out looking. Judge, it's hard to shit on you when the rest of the team has been so bad. But again, I think I said this a couple of weeks ago when he came up in a big spot late in the game and he popped out. When you're in that spot and you're getting pitches to hit, you need to hit them or else the team's not going to win. Simple as that.
Yeah, and that's absolutely look, he should be putting together a better at-bat in that. But I do tend to agree a little bit with what they're saying. When you're up there 4 times the walk and you're not getting pitches to hit, you're looking for specific things. He's got to be more aggressive. And the problem with him being more aggressive is that's when you start expanding the zone. And when you're not getting strikes, you start getting off. So I have mixed feelings about this. I know his numbers in clutch situations this year are not great. But I can't shit on Aaron Judge he's carried this entire team. Him and Soto have carried this team. And the fact that they're up in a moment, it was a big moment. He's had big hits in the past, did not come through. It is what it is. I'm not going to shit on him. The fact that he was in the walked 4 times and had JD Davis protecting him, and I understand. Look, this is the thing about what we're looking at and how we're trying to find solutions. There are not good solutions on the team currently. I get it. There are not. But you can't roll out Jahmai Jones as the leadoff guy who hasn't played in forever. His biggest role is the end of the line celebration guy when they hit a home run. That's his biggest role on camera. Like, he's a hype guy that celebrates with the guys who hit a home run as the last person every single time. That's his biggest role. And that's fine. He's a clubhouse guy. They like him. Cool. He should never in a million years be in the leadoff spot. JD Davis, who got let go from the Oakland Athletics, is hitting in the 4 spot. You know what? I understand that everybody's been struggling, but don't give me those names in the first and the 4 spot. Even if
names.
I understand the guys are struggling, like at this point, there's no good solution for the leadoff spot. Put Volpe back up there and let's figure it out. You don't have a lot of other options at this point. But where's the talent? Where do you believe the talent is? If you believe the talent is there, then the talent should at some point come through. Keep him in the spot. Let him do it, because no one else is doing anything. I know Glaber's hit a couple home runs. It was an 0-2, thank you very much, leave a ball over the plate pitch that he put out. Good on him. And I know he hit 2 solo shots, and I'm sure we'll see him there for the next 2 weeks now. But put the talent there and see what happens. At least when no one's playing well, at least put who you deem as the most talented. Or, and I don't think this solves the problem, because I think it's just going to be a little different. Move Judge and Soto. Put Judge in the leadoff spot. Put Soto in 2. Get them as many at bats as you possibly can, because they're the only people that are doing things. The problem is then Soto's going to get walked.
No, exactly. That doesn't necessarily solve the problem, whether they hit 1 and 2 or 2 and 3. Like, it's still no protection behind them. And then once the lineup comes around after the first time, there's no one getting on base ahead of them. Like, that's still the same problem. But what it does is maybe get them, one of them or 2 of them, one more at bat in the game, which could be valuable.
Other solutions that you can have right now Giancarlo Stanton's been hitting in the cage and doing something, and maybe he'll be ready for the Red Sox.
Just
Maybe
start
he
him.
won't.
Just
Just
put him
start
there.
him. Just put him in there.
Just so there's a
Nothing else
thought in the
stopping you.
manager's head where it's like, well, maybe Stanton could get a hit. Like you said, with put Volpe or Glaber or Verdugo or a name, a Major League Baseball player name in back of Aaron Judge instead of JD Davis. So there's at least 1% of thought in the opposing manager's head to, should I just continue to walk Judge here? Because right now, if it's Jahmai Jones ahead of Soto and JD Davis behind Judge, there's not a doubt in the manager's head of what they need to do, and that's walk Aaron Judge in that spot. And credit to Mendoza, credit to the Mets, they exploited it. They
100%
embarrassed
exploited
it.
Carlos Mendoza is a baseball guy. He knows, he knows this team as well as anybody that is currently out there in Major League Baseball and other teams. This guy knows the fabric of this team. He knows them. So yeah, you're not gonna fool that guy. That guy's gonna come out. He's gonna throw two lefties at you because he's gonna say, oh, "Guess what? If I do this, Boone's gonna sit people."
Exactly, because Boone's in his office just cooking. Just thinks he's cooking something spicy. He's like, well, we got a lefty, and this team has struggled against lefties all year, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to stack the lineup with righties. They'll never see it coming. When the righty hitters suck, it doesn't matter if it's righty left. What matchups is Jahmai Jones and J.D. Davis providing you? There's no matchups with those guys.
Yeah.
And if you're going to sit Rice and Wells...
Look,
hold on. No. Before you do that, I know what you're going to say. If you're going to sit Rice and Wells, why does it have to be on the same day? Like, what is the point? Like, at least put one of those bats in there. And I know they probably started Narvaez because Luis Hill was pitching, and Narvaez caught Hill in the minors. So maybe there's a connection there. And one of the only positive from the two games was Luis Hill, which we will talk about. And your point is going to be Ben Rice over the last 10 games has been awful. 81 batting average, 205 on base, 189. Yes, he's been awful. But the only reason he sat is because it was a lefty on the mound, because he came in the game as soon as the lefty was out of the game. So it wasn't because J.D. Davis is a better option. It was because it was a matchup. And again, throw the matchup out the window when it's J.D. Davis.
I understand that, but Ben Rice is not a name that any of us like. I'm pulling for Ben Rice as much as anybody. I want the kid to do well, but he's been struggling mightily. You just
so then why not sit him the day before? Why not sit him on Saturday, Sunday, Monday? He's been sucking all of the same. Why did you pick that day? Because it's just the lefty. That's the only reason. The only reason is because it was a lefty on the mound.
I don't care about that, to be honest. Ben Rice or J.D. Davis, they're both bad options. Don't put either of them in the 4 spot.
One of them has to start at first base, though.
Where my problem is, yes, I understand that. And that's currently, as the roster exists, that's what has to happen. But don't put him in the 4 spot.
No.
The 4 spot has been a black hole the entire season. At least have it be a black hole with a name in there that we might have some hope for, okay? J.D. Davis doesn't give that. There's no protection there. There's not even – the pitcher doesn't even remember his name. He's like, someone's hitting after a Judge. I don't remember.
Well, he used to be a Met, so they should remember his name.
Well, again, still forgot his name because he wasn't a Met for very long. It's like, you're looking at these guys who are trotting in there, and you wonder why the 4 spot is as bad as it is. At least throw someone in there that has had some success in the major leagues in the past and see what happens. I understand it. So the fact that you're switching a lefty and a righty for 2 guys that are not doing well, like, I don't really care about that because I'm not going to sit here and stand on the table for Ben Rice. I want him to do well. I thought it would be a good idea for him to come up. He has had spurts, but he has struggled. He's been striking out, having terrible at-bats. He is not that guy. Why are we not looking at, why is he so, send him back down. Bring somebody else up. Augustine Ramirez, who is the other catcher and / first baseman in AA and AAA, give him a shot. Why not? There's nothing to lose right now. Rizzo's not coming back anytime soon, and if he does come back, we don't know what he is. If you're not going to give other people a shot and you're just going to keep rolling the same guys out there that are struggling mightily, then nothing is going to change. And it goes back to the conversation that we've had year after year after year after year after year with Aaron Boone, and there's no accountability on this team when you struggle. When you struggle on the field, it's an atom boy, you'll get him next time. We're right there, so close every single time. The prolonged slumps are just dealt with and not addressed. And I understand with certain players, you have to deal with them. You don't address them. But first base right now is a revolving door. Put something else in there. Brian Cashman, go make a trade right now. Get another body in there. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for a complete collapse before the deadline? Are we waiting for the very last day when competition becomes the absolute most? It's crazy. there's no sense of urgency to stop this, even with the Orioles struggling ahead of them. Game and a half out. All in front of us. We're in a great position. So make a move then. Do something.
No, it's
Shake
okay
it
because other teams around them are struggling. You know how you notice Boone slipped that into the quote. We're
Oh,
gonna
I
play
heard it,
we're
yeah.
gonna play the quote in a couple minutes, but Boone made sure to slip into there. We've seen other teams around us struggling because you know damn well that is being talked about in that clubhouse and in that front office. It's like, yeah, we're struggling, but the other guy's sucking too, so it's okay. Yeah, I was speeding, officer, but that guy over there was speeding too. Well, you got pulled over. Okay, so you're getting the ticket. Yankees, fix your shit. This is an opportunity, if anything. If you fix your shit now with Boston sucking and Baltimore sucking, maybe you can take a lead in the division. Instead, you're just going to continue to suck with them. And believe me, I've got confidence in Baltimore turning it around. I don't know what Boston is, if they're going to make a move at the deadline. I think they've outplayed their talent level so far this season. But Baltimore is underplaying their talent level right now. So they're going to figure it out sooner than later. And I have more confidence that they're going to figure it out sooner than the Yankees, considering the lineup of J.D. Davis and Jahmai Jones and Carlos Navarez and all of these bums, no names in the lineup. And to go back to the point about the lefty-righty matchup, they faced two lefties, okay? They faced Quintana and then they faced Minaya. The lineup was completely different the next night. So they seemingly flip-flop. Boone seemingly flip-flops between I'm going to play matchups here, I'm going to do something different here, I'm going on my gut here. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this. It makes no sense. And my last point about the lineup, you mentioned the cleanup spot being a black hole. That doesn't do it justice. The Yankees are last in baseball for OPS out of a cleanup spot with 586. 586 is impossibly bad for any spot in the lineup. Never mind your cleanup spot. How is it legitimately that bad?
It's a miracle that Judge and Soto, it proves how good of players they are, because the fact that they have zero behind them and they're still putting up the numbers that they are is truly miraculous. Truly miraculous. So there's no answer. And the fact that you think that, like, my mindset here with Aaron Boone too is like, you're right. He does try to come up with these concoctions, and he's like, "Ooh, Jahmai Jones. We haven't seen him."
They're not going to see it coming. They're not going to know how to handle Jahmai Jones.
He's gonna be the spark plug.
You know how to handle Jahmai Jones? Throw him 3 fastballs in the strike zone, and he won't get a hit.
It's like that's your spark is Jahmai Jones, who legitimately is the team guy in the locker room, and you're gonna get him out there. He's got no talent in the baseball side of things. He's not. When it comes to major leaguers, he's got no talent compared to the rest of them. It's not. It's a terrible way to try to spark something when you're putting the last guy who really doesn't have any hope to be like a very talented everyday guy. That's not what he is. That's not what he does. If anything, he plays defense.
So I know Boone has said, I got my 2-3. I'm not splitting up my 2-3. At this point, why? Why not hit someone in between them? Maybe Glaber, maybe Volpe. Maybe one of those guys gets going because Judge is in back of them. And at least you split up a little. Like, on the surface, in a vacuum, I understand it's the best 1-2 punch in baseball. Soto and Judge is the best 1-2 punch in baseball. And when and if the lineup gets healthy, when Giancarlo comes back, if some other guys are playing better, like, yeah, you stick those guys together. But you're scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. If you're going to try something, why not try that? And it's like, no, that's not even a thought that would ever cross my mind. Why? How is that worse than Jahmai Jones and J.D. Davis surrounding those two guys? You could lead off Soto, then you could hit Volpe 2, then you could hit Judge 3, or Glaber 2, or whatever. Verdugo. A baseball player name, a Major League Baseball name. Like a guy who's someone who follows the sport, kind of like, I'm a Yankees fan. I'll go to a couple games this year. You mentioned Jahmai Jones to that. Who? What? You mentioned yeah, I've heard of Volpe. Oh yeah, Glaber Torres. Yeah, I know Glaber Torres.
Verdugo, he plays for the Red Sox.
J.D. Davis. What? J.D. Davis? What? No, he's on the Yankees.
Yeah, he played for the Angels and the Yankees back in like 2002. That was J.D. Drew. But that, I mean, how many old?
But like,
go to that.
I'm not saying it's the solve. It's probably not the solve because the only solve is other guys around Soto and Judge hitting. That is truly the only solve, or you acquire players to hit around them. But
100%.
why is that worse? Why is that out of the question? But hitting Jahmai Jones and JD Davis 1 and 4 in the question. That's stupid.
Yes, I agree. But you hit the point of this team and when Boone's we should play the clips because I'm going to start talking about all the
Before
things
we play the clip, we're brought to you today by MitoPure from Timeline Nutrition. Prior to being introduced to Timeline Nutrition, I kind of just accepted feeling old and tired was unavoidable with work. Got 2 young kids, general aging. You all know the feeling. Timeline Nutrition says no, do not accept feeling old and tired. Timeline is a Swiss-based life science company and a global leader in urolithin A research. Urolithin A is a powerful postbiotic that is nearly impossible to get from your regular diet alone. MitoPure is clinically shown to give our cellular energy new power by triggering the body's natural process for removing and rebuilding damaged mitochondria. Timeline uses the analogy that MitoPure is like Pac-Man in your cells, crawling around, chomping up the damaged mitochondria that makes you feel old and tired and recycling it into new and healthy ones. MitoPure is the #1 doctor-recommended urolithin A supplement that is NSF and Clean Label Project certified. And if you want to give it a try for yourself, Timeline is offering 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Go to timeline.com/Bronx for the offer and also to find out more information. Once again, timeline.com/Bronx to get 10% off. Okay, so we're going to play a clip from Boone's post-game press conference after Wednesday's game. Starts with a question. Logan, hit it.
Back to June 7th, you guys have a record that is on par with some of the worst teams in the league, the White Sox, Rockies, etc. At what point is it not a poor stretch?
I'm not defining. We got to play better. Okay? We have it right in front of us. We're a really good team that has played. We need to be better. I'm not going to define stretch this or that. We got to go win, right? And we're right there. We're watching other teams struggle around us. Mm-hmm. We know we got to be better. Okay, we got to. We're pissed off in there. We got a lot of pride in there. We have a lot of expectation in there. So stretch, slump. We got to play better the rest of the way. And it's right there. I've said it's right in front of us. It is. It's right in front of us, right? For as bad as it's been, we're also in a great position. And we got to go play the baseball the way we're capable of playing. And it's on all of us, starting with me in that room, to make sure we're coming out with the right level of energy and getting after it.
Have you been happy with that?
Absolutely.
So, obviously he's frustrated. When you heard the sound dip out, that's not something with the audio. Like he was sort of moving around and the microphone wasn't in his face, but he was obviously very visibly frustrated. Hit the table, which I'm not going to do. Said it's right there in front of us. So that, mark that off your bingo card. He put the, cause he's got a lot of knows. That's his, crutch in between every, sentence. Aaron Boone, when he doesn't know, what to say, he says, it's right there in front of, Scott, it's right there in front of us. We got a lot of pride in there. We're not happy either. It's just when it's the 3rd season in a row of this crap, when we're watching the three-peat of this, the sequel to the sequel, how do you sit there with a straight face and not just laugh in this guy's face? And credit to the reporters for ribbing him, for asking these kinds of questions. That is a legitimately good question. At what point, Aaron, is it not just a slump? You have been the worst team in baseball for 2 months. Is that a slump? Or are you just a bad team? It's a fair question, which he doesn't have an answer to, obviously.
He doesn't have an answer to it because the players are also not performing at all. They're not, outside of 2 people. So he's not going to say anything that anybody is going to say, hang their hat on or feel good about. He just needs to talk less and just acknowledge the fact that they suck right now and they're struggling and they need to be better. That's it. Don't give me the hyperbole. Don't talk about other teams. focus on your building, how you can be better, and then actively talk about things that you can do to be better and things
Yes.
that you can actually propose solutions. Talk about ways how you're. Give me some specifics on things that are happening that are trying to improve the team or trying to rally this team. Like, give some reasoning behind, why you think that Jahmai Jones is going to come in there and be that spark plug for this team. Is it because there's something that we haven't seen? Has he been barreling up the machine like nobody else? Is his barrel percentage in the tube higher than anybody's against left-handed pitching? Maybe. I don't know. Tell me that. Give me something that justifies reasonings and why you're doing it, or things that you're trying to get this thing going. But I don't want to hear excuses, and I don't want to hear the what ifs, and I certainly don't want to hear about anybody else's team. I don't want to hear about anything else.
Off the most.
Yeah.
He's never going to call out players by name. That's never going to happen. He could be the manager for the next 50 years. He's never going to do that. But he could, like you said, call out specifics. We need more production behind our two big guys, or we need better defense in key spots. We can't have defensive lapses. We need to control the running game, right? Like, he can say things. He can give concrete things why this team has struggled for 2 months. We need more consistency from our starting pitchers, or we need to lock down games when we have the opportunity in our bullpen. Like,
or we actually need to hit when there's runners in scoring position for once, in my tenure.
While you could infer who he's calling out in those situations, of course, it's not saying a specific player's name or even a specific position, but it's at least putting a finger on all of the reasons why this team has struggled, instead of just saying, we've got confidence in that room, we've got a lot of pride in that room, we're as mad as anyone. Are you as mad as anyone? Because your anger comes off as very phony and an act at this point, because it's the same fake anger year after year. I know Boone gets angry, but he gets angry at umpires. That's the only time I actually believe his anger is when he's arguing a ball and strike or arguing something with an umpire. I think he comes off as a complete phony when he's sitting there at the podium, slamming his hand, stuttering, talking about how it's right there in front of us, and raising his voice and getting annoyed with report. He comes off as a freaking phony.
Yeah. So I want to quickly on the negatives too, because it has to do with the lineups. Cole's performance is on the list, but the runners in scoring position is something that we talked about last episode, and it's something that we should continue to talk about because it's happening every single series. And in this particular series, when you're looking at the lineup, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, like, hey, they're probably going to struggle when the actual good players are on base.
And the bad players are hitting with runners on base.
Because all the players are terrible around those guys. So yes, it happened again. 2 for 19 with runners in scoring position over these 2 games. And you combine the full 4-game set with the Mets this year, 4 for 36. When you're looking at, and I've addressed the fact that I don't believe that the Mets are a rival. They're not. As a Yankees fan, I don't see the Mets as a rival, but they are a crosstown team that is competing for headlines. They're competing for dollars in the city. They're competing for a lot of things. They're competing for pride just on who's winning. Not to say that it's a rival, like a heated rivalry, but there is a little tension between the teams when one is dominating the other. And the New York Mets dominated the Yankees this year, swept all 4 games and did it handily, and did it in a way that was strategic in these last 2, especially the first game, by pitching around the one of 2 of the Yankees' biggest assets and exploiting the rest of the team, and then just put the kibosh and you just dumped runs on their best pitcher in the second game. So yeah, there's a level of importance here when you're playing them to not get embarrassed, to have a competitive game, to not be, just a tromping ground for the Mets to come over into your building and beat the crap out of you in front of a sold out crowd that are half Mets fans. But it's one of these situations, man, where you're looking back at how the Yankees, when they've gotten to the playoffs, and many times they've gotten into the playoffs in probably less than ideal situations as far as the way that the team is playing. And the biggest thing that's happened come playoff time and why the Yankees have exited every round of the playoffs in recent history is hitting. And it's hitting in situations that are important to the game with runners on base that are ready to score. They cannot convert in these situations. And it comes down to a fundamental lack of being able to put bat to ball and stone up in a game in a moment and get that big hit. They can't do it. They cannot do it. And unless two of the guys are up. And unfortunately, there's so much pressure on those two guys to do it because no one else will do it. And usually what comes from that are more failures than normal. If you have no
right, because
supporting
there's going to be maybe one opportunity, which there was for Judge, one opportunity on Tuesday night, and he didn't come through. And notice what I said about Judge.
You can tell he was pressing during that at bat. That was not a Judge at bat.
But notice what I said about Judge. You brought up the fact that his high leverage numbers or his late and close numbers are not as good as his other numbers. But like you could probably say that about most players. I didn't bring that up. My point isn't that Judge isn't clutch. My point is that right now, if Judge and Soto are up in a spot to win a game and they don't do it, the team has no one else to do it. So that was the one opportunity Judge had. You harken back to Barry Bonds in the early 2000s when he would see one or two pitches a game because he was so good. He would get walked 4 times. He would see one strike and he would hit a home run. Now, is that an unfair standard to hold Judge to? Of course. But you're only going to get maybe 1 or 2 opportunities in a game, Judge, to come through. And that's really hard. I understand how hard that is when you see only balls out of the strike zone for 3.5 hours or 3 hours, then you get up in a big spot against a closer who's kind of wild and throwing like from weird angles and nasty stuff. But if you don't do it, you're going to lose.
He also makes people pay and gets the team back into games as well. So, it's not like he's completely folding in all these situations. Like the man is putting the team on his back in situations to get them at least within a fighting chance of, competing in innings 8 and 9. And yeah, unfortunately it didn't work out. And you could tell like his approach in that at bat, it was off. It was a little off. It wasn't
I think he was expecting to only see balls again. Like he 100%. Was expecting to get walked.
And he certainly
and that wouldn't have been a horrible approach in that. Like we talked about Kevin Cash not walking Aaron Judge on Monday in a spot. And this would have been even because Soto was on first, right? Because Soto walked. And so Soto was on first. And so it's even less of a baseball reason to walk a guy to put a runner in scoring position than tying run. But if there's ever an opportunity to do that, Judge is maybe thinking, well, I've only walked it this whole game. Like they're going to go and attack JD Davis because he's not going to do shit. So maybe he wasn't expecting to see strikes.
And why is this runners in scoring position such an important number? One, that's how you score runs outside of the home run. That means you have to spray the ball around the field and not rely on the home run. If you're not relying on the home run, you're probably and you're actually scoring runs. You're going to see those that runner in scoring position number much higher because you're converting when the opportunity presents itself. And why is it such an important number to look at? Because come playoff time, you're looking at this number a hell of a lot more closely because the pitching is better. There are more specialists coming into the game. There are fewer opportunities in playoff games because they are better teams, better pitching. And if you're not able to convert in these moments, you're going to lose playoff series. It's going to happen. And it is the reason why the Yankees have been bounced from the playoffs for as many years as I can remember going back, because they cannot hit in big situations throughout the lineup, throughout the game. And when you look at that runners in scoring position number at the end of the game, it's usually extremely lopsided.
Even in the games they win, we talked about last week. In the games they won over the weekend against Tampa, they were still 2 for 10, 3 for 14 or whatever it was. Like they still didn't have good numbers. They just hit home runs or they scored in other ways.
To be fair, in playoffs, the runner in scoring position number is going to be lower for the majority of teams. There's, 1 to 2
but
teams
you might not have 11 opportunities. You might only have 5 opportunities. And
that's right. And there are a lot of home runs hit. You do win playoff games by hitting a lot of home runs. I get it. But the fact is that there are 2 guys doing that right now and nobody else around them is doing anything.
Well, if this lineup is the lineup they're going into the playoffs with, then forget it. They're not winning anything.
If this lineup stays the way it is, they're not making it to the playoffs, most likely.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing about the runners in scoring position, like Stanton was the third guy there. Stanton's numbers overall were good, but especially with the runners in scoring position were excellent this year. Even if he didn't hit when he was in the cleanup spot, which is just one of those weird that's baseball Susan anomalies because the Yankees cleanup production has just been terrible. He's going to be slotted into the cleanup spot whenever he comes back. And at least it's a name who can hit with runners in scoring position and has proved he can hit with runners in scoring position this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? If there's no solution to the leadoff spot in the next 5 to 7 days, which there's not going to be unless they go out and get a guy.
It's going to be Gleyber Torres unless they acquire someone. Gleyber Torres is the leadoff hitter.
Or when Stanton is back, you go Judge, Soto, Stanton, and stack it as much as you can. Get as many at bats from those three guys as you possibly can, because that's the only thing that's winning games right now. Like that. Yeah. Be frank about it. Be very clear about what's happening here. The only reason you're winning any games is because of those two guys. You add a third guy, get the most at bats out of those guys as you possibly can until you see something else working in the lineup, until you see other guys starting to contribute. And maybe even then you keep it.
Yeah. I'm with you.
You got to stack the top of it at this point. There's no leadoff guy. Like putting Gleyber in there is not the solution.
No,
it's not the solution.
No, I agree.
Or go acquire someone who can actually go into that spot and play.
You have to acquire someone. Like you can't just cross your fingers that everyone's going to magically start hitting. That's not going to happen. Maybe one of them will start hitting, but that's probably not going to be enough. If you don't acquire someone, you're toast. You're porked.
Yeah, porked.
You're a big fat pig on a spigot. Just run. You never did a pig roast in college.
In college, no, you could afford a full pig in college.
Yeah,
for college did you go
for homecoming weekend for the fraternity, the alumni would always get a pig.
Oh, no, we didn't do that. Do you bury the pig? Isn't that a thing?
You eat the pig.
You bury it. You bury the pig in like a charcoal thing, right?
Yeah.
You light it on fire on the ground.
Yeah.
And then you put them on the spigot, or not the spigot, the rotisserie.
Yeah, it would take like all day.
Yeah. Oh,
and then honestly, it would kind of just like taste dry.
Well, that's not a good.
Well, a bunch of drunk assholes trying to roast a pig.
We used to have a pig roast where we had at my dad's house, where it became like a graduation thing for my sister. Right. And that was a good one. We had a guy came over to do it, so he knew what he was doing.
You got a pig guy?
A pig guy. We had a pig guy. Central Jersey pig guy.
Cole. It's kind of like the same thing as Judge, dude. Like, you had to nut up there. You can't give up 3 home runs in that spot. You got to lead twice. You can't give up 3 home runs. That's bad. You were bad. You couldn't be bad in that spot. You had to nut up and pitch better in that spot. You had to, and you didn't.
And again, the number 9 spot comes back to bite the Yankees. The number 9 spot. It happened in Tampa. It happened again last night.
Yeah, but they also got beat by Alonso and Lindor last night. It's like not like they only got beat by the 9 spot.
No, you're right. But those guys, you get beat by those guys. Again, going back to some names here that you would you understand. Like those guys are good baseball players. Lindor's been playing out of his mind. He looks like he's vintage Lindor from the Cleveland days at this point. Like the guy looks like a 5-tool player right now ever since they put him in the leadoff spot. So yeah, you got to be better, but you also cannot lose to the 9 guy. You cannot lose to the 9 guy.
That was just a solo home run though, right?
Yeah, but 3 for 3. Like
I agree.
You're turning over the lineup to the guys that you just mentioned.
Yes.
Cy Young winner.
You make a mistake to a number 9 hitter, which even Boone after talked about how, that's a tough pitch. That's not Cole's fault. That's a good pitch that just got hit. Whatever. You give up a solo home run. Solo home runs are not going to beat you. You give up a 2-run home run to Alonso. Then Lindor hit a 2-run home run later in that game. It's unacceptable, Cole. So far on the season.
5 2/3. 8 hits.
8 hits, 2 walks, 6 runs, 3 home runs allowed. He's allowed
a lot. It's a lot of base runners.
1.8 home runs per 9 innings this year. Last year, when he won the Cy Young, we talked about how he got rid of the home run ball. He gave up 0.9 home runs per 9 innings in 2023. When you compare it back to 2022, when he led the league in home runs allowed at 1.5, we are now worse than that this year. And I know maybe that's a little unfair to compare a season in which he was injured and is coming back, and some of these starts have been rehab starts. But last night's no longer a rehab start. The last 3 starts we talked about, start against Baltimore, And then the start against Tampa after the All-Star break, like that's midseason Garrett Cole at this point. He's letting it loose. He's throwing over 100 pitches. Like there's no restraints. There's no restrictions on him. This is just a bad outing in a big spot. As simple as that. Bad outing in a spot they needed him to be the ace.
Yeah, and when you're giving up that much, and you look at the Mets as well against
the Mets have been one of the hottest teams in baseball for I don't know how long it's been, a while. Like since their rough start, they've been on fire.
But they're 6 for 15 hitting with runners in scoring position yesterday. So you're looking at them actually coming out.
That's good.
And hitting when their opportunities existed, they hit the ball. McNeil barely missed another home run. Could have been 4 on the board very easily. That ball wasn't leaving the yard. Soto kind of did a little dance to catch it.
That
made it look more than it was.
Soto made that look like a great play. He got turned around.
Yeah. But you're, a fraction away from a 4th home run being hit against Cole in that game. And yes, he needs to be a stopper in that moment. You've lost 3 to your crosstown quote rivals. You need to stop the bleeding.
Throw
right
out
now
the crosstown rival thing. Stop the bleeding. You're sucking as a team. Okay, you won 2 games against Tampa over the weekend, but you split that series and you're about to drop the series to the Mets here. You got Boston coming in. You're not coming in. You're going to Boston. It was a huge spot last night and Cole failed.
Yeah, he did. And the road ahead right now, you go to Boston, day off, Boston for 3, and then Philly for 3.
Then the schedule gets easy after that, though.
It's a short stretch. But that's a tough stretch. Going to Boston at any point is a tough
Boston's
stretch.
1-5 since the break. They didn't have Jansen didn't travel to Colorado because of the altitude or something like that. They blew 2 games, I think, in LA. They blew another game in Colorado. They just gave 20 runs to the Rockies yesterday. Logan, you were going to say something?
Yeah, 2 things, actually. First, I'll take the jinx on the Cole thing. I made a clip that he's back from last episode.
Yeah.
And then he stunk, so I'll take the jinx. But other than that, yesterday he was throwing the cutter a lot.
Yep. His cutter got hit, pounded.
Yeah, 3 for 4, 2 home runs. Alonso
could have been more
Lindor's
because
home runs.
Lindor's line drive to start the game was on a cutter.
Yeah. So, and every time he throws that pitch, we kind of look at each other and we're like, why? So I was just doing a little bit of digging, and 2022 was the year that he was like throwing it a bunch at the beginning of the season. That was like the year that he couldn't make it out of the second inning in Detroit, like all that stuff. And he was throwing it like, 15% of the time, 13% of the time at the beginning of the year, and then just ditched it. Didn't really throw it much last year. Won a Cy Young. Threw it a little, used it a little bit more as the season went on, but not as much as he's throwing it now. He's throwing it 22% of the time this year so far.
Do we think this has anything to do with the injury?
No.
Well, I'll tell you what. His fastball is down about 8 points. It's probably about it is a career low for him.
For velocity?
In percentage, in times that he's throwing it.
So, I'm curious about his 4-seam fastball, like spin rate, velocity, like some of those things.
So velocity, he's at 95.6. That's in standard deviation.
Good, it's good enough.
And then spin rate, fastball, yeah, right where it should be. So nothing there. I was just looking at pitch percentages because that cutter, every time it gets hit, I'm like, it's just not that good of a pitch.
So it's
like weird.
The ESPN broadcast was the Wednesday night game, and Cohn was talking about like, I bet Garrett Cole, I think he said something about like, I bet Garrett Cole's never thrown a fastball high out of the strike zone like that and had a guy get on top of it, because that's what happened. Like that was not a pitch you ever give up a home run on. If a guy makes contact, he's going to pop it up to shallow left field. And the guy got around on it and got on top of it and rocketed the ball to the left field seats. How?
So what do you expect from that? I mean, what's your takeaway from?
I don't know. I don't know. My takeaway is
Obviously,
that fastball's not as good.
Well, and they're sitting fastball.
Even if you're sitting fastball, to get around and on top of a chest high, like neck high fastball is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
When you're the number 9 hitter. If you're Juan Soto or Aaron Judge and you sit on a high fastball and you get it and you hit it, tip your cap.
He's just throwing less sliders, more cutters. It's just like his pitch mix is different. I don't know why. I mean, I know it's still a smallish sample size compared to, when you're comparing seasons, but he really has never had a ton of success with the cutter. His success comes with his
Four-seam fastball.
and then either his slider or his knuckle curve, whatever's kind of working on the day.
Yep.
So when he's going to that cutter, it's almost like he is doing it because he feels like he has nothing else. But then if you're going to get beat on your cutter like he did last night, that's like the worst look. Like, who wants to get beat on their third, fourth, fifth best pitch?
Well, so like the Mets, when they beat him at Citi Field was, well, first of all, he was a handful of starts back from injury at that point. So we kind of threw it out. Like, remember his velocity dipped a bunch in the middle of that game, and like probably due to fatigue.
He also mentioned that it was intentional.
But one thing they did was they made him work deep counts. And what happened? The first batter of the game, Lindor, last night, was like an 8-pitch at bat, and he barely just missed a single. But like from the get go, they're putting long, tough at bats against Cole. So even though he had a 1-2-3 first inning, he worked a lot.
Yeah, you know what it goes back to? That's an old school mentality that Carlos Mendoza brought to the building, knows what the fabric, again, of this team is on the pitching side, on the hitting side. He was the bench coach for the New York Yankees for multiple years. He's been in the organization. He knows all these guys. Probably part of the book is take pitches, work the count, get him frustrated, get him to throw the other, some of his secondary pitches, jump on the fastball, only look fastball in certain quadrants. Like they're probably putting together a very good game plan for him because Carlos Mendoza knows him extremely well. There's what's his face, the former manager of the Blue Jays, also in that dugout, who has seen Garrett Cole many times, very familiar with the entire lineup of the New York Yankees as well. So you're getting out coached, you're getting out managed as well. Game plan,
well, that's been
approach,
happening for
all
years.
of the things. But I'm saying, like, in this specific situation, you're getting out coached because they are walking in with a better game plan and a better approach to your team, whether who's on the mound, if it's your best pitcher or whatever shitty lineup you're putting out there. You're getting out managed by preparation and approach to the game itself, the individual games. Like, that's happening also.
We do have one positive to talk about, but before we do that, Yankees are going to be in Boston this weekend for a huge series at Fenway Park. If you're looking for tickets, you should definitely be using the Game Time app. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which means buying tickets to a baseball game on Game Time is faster and easier than ever. I love the Game Time app. There's so many great features. My personal favorites are the flash deals, which for Fenway Park might be your best bet because you can just click on the flash deals to see what sections the best deals are in. Just make sure you don't buy behind a pole. The all-in pricing, so you can select this so there's no surprise fees at checkout. And then seat view, that's where the poll comes in. Although I'm curious if there's any behind the pole seat views on the Game Time app. But just look on the map and you can figure out where the polls are. The app is streamlined and is easy to use. There's just a few taps and then your tickets are in your wallet. It also allows for easy sharing of tickets with other people if you're going to the game with friends and family. Game Time has great tickets for sporting events, but they also have concert, comedy shows, theater, and much more. And the Game Time guarantee means you're always going to get the best price. If you find tickets in the same row and same section for less money, they're going to credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code BRONX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Have you been to Fenway Park, Scott?
Yeah. Well,
and Logan, you went for that last series, right? That was your first trip?
Yep.
What was your thoughts?
It was cool. I mean, they got crushed. Like, it was...
They gave up 1,000 stolen bases?
Yeah, that was the game that was, like, started this all, so maybe it's half my fault. No, but it was... I mean, I kind of was, like, just kept saying, like, it almost didn't even matter that they were losing. It was just, like, super cool to just see, which is so not me as a Yankee fan, because I'm, like... I go to the games and I'm like, you know, in every pitch.
It's that historic ballpark factor. Like, it really is. I got the same vibes. Like, I love Fenway Park for that reason. Obviously, I hate the Red Sox, but Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, like these stadiums with history and character, it's really fun. It's a really fun environment.
Yeah, and I mean, it was Father's Day. I was there, and we were kind of, you know, I mean, everybody's like, you know, my dad's like, I wasn't with my dad, but he's like, you got to be careful, you know, you're wearing Yankee stuff.
Not anymore.
Nobody says anything, you know. It was a ton of Yankee fans, and the place was going crazy because the Red Sox were winning, and it still was like, you know, this is really cool. Like, this place is awesome.
Yeah, that whole cliche.
Let's relax on all the positives we're talking
Well,
about.
The
I
cliche-
hate watching it. Like, I hate watching games like on TV at Fenway Park, and I hate when they go play there
Why
like-
do you hate watching games?
because it's just
No
it
lead
never-
is
like,
ever safe. It's
right.
like,
It just never.
oh, that's
it's
a
just
pop up to
never
left field.
comforting.
Oh, great, double
never
off the wall.
comforting.
Here we go.
But I've never actually been. I've been to Citi Field once, but I've never even been to any other ballpark.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I've never seen Camden Yards. I've never seen Philly, but it was like I didn't even do the tour. But
Yeah, but
just
those
walking
newer
around and-
stadiums, like Camden Yards was like the first one. So like Camden Yards, I love Camden Yards, and I've been to the Giants Stadium, which is also unique because it's right on the water and all that stuff. But like you go to a new stadium, it's like great amenities, beautiful, but like it's just a modern baseball stadium.
It's open
Not
air
special.
baseball, so you can see from everywhere. They're prioritizing the concessions so that you can see from the concessions and buy things while you're watching the games because you buy more things at that point.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll
Fenway,
make-
you go into a tunnel and you gotta watch one of the TVs. It's like old
get
Yankee
in, get
Stadium.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
right. So I'll make myself. I'll make you guys feel really old for a second. I don't ever remember going to the old Yankee Stadium. So the only, Fenway is so different from new Yankee Stadium, obviously. I assume it was kind of similar in a lot of ways to the old Yankee
No,
Stadium.
I mean
But
Fenway's kind of unlike any other stadium. It's Fenway and Wrigley are similar because they're so old. Like you got to remember, Yankee Stadium was renovated in the 70s. I'm sure if it was the original Yankee Stadium, it would have felt more like that. But Fenway Park, you sit at some seats. They're not facing the infield. They're tiny as shit. Your knees, if you're not even if you're like tall, if you're above like 5'7", your knees are digging into the back of the person in front of you.
yeah, I don't know if we were sitting like we were at the end of a row and then it was like a wall and then like probably like 3 feet up the row continued.
Yeah.
Like, interesting to say the least.
Luis Heel, the lone positive from the two games. He was very effective throwing a slider 44% of the time, which is basically double his season average of 20% sliders so far on the season. Talking about the new grip, which apparently Luis Severino helped him with. Shout out Sevy. The biggest contribution he's made to the Yankees in years was helping Luis Heel with this slider grip. If I'm a Mets fan, I'm like, bro, like you couldn't have waited another week until they aren't playing him anymore.
I mean, I'm sure that they talk as well, just because they were.
No, apparently Severino, I heard the quote. Severino said after their first time they played, he basically got with Luis Heel to talk about it.
Good. I appreciate that. Luis Severino is a good dude. He's a nice guy and helps out his former teammates who have been coming up. And
the
again,
old man in me
Luis
is
Heel
like, no.
reminds me of him. So he's a mentor, I'm sure.
Do you remember the story that Mariano Rivera mentored Roy Halladay on his cutter, and Roy Halladay turned it into one of the best cutters of all time, especially for a starting pitcher? I remember hearing that story. I'm like, dude, why? Like Roy Halladay pitched complete game shutouts against us every single time he pitched.
Because he probably did that to multiple people who couldn't execute the damn pitch.
Well,
and
when
it
it's
doesn't
Roy
happen.
Halladay, he can execute it.
But Roy Halladay wasn't Roy Halladay until Roy Halladay was Roy Halladay. He was terrible to start. He was of rags to riches story as far as his baseball career and how he came out. It's actually pretty miraculous to watch, to look at his stats, starting from minor leagues all the way up. Like he came completely salvaged his own career. Anyway, Luis Heel, the fact that he's throwing more of the sliders, having success with what he's doing and doing some different things, giving some different looks is really positive. I think it speaks to the maturation of him and how he's gone this season, because if you're looking for some really bright spots, he's one of the brightest spots on this team. And a lot of that, I think, is because he saw such high success, saw such a low fall, a fall that made him, very much humbled and realized that if he's not the way he needs to be, if he's mechanically not sound, if he's not throwing the right type of pitch mix, he will get hit no matter how nasty his stuff is. And then he made the adjustments. And over the last, 3 starts, he's been very good again. And he seemingly back in control of what he's doing. And the fact that he's mixing up the pitches as well, I think I think that speaks a lot to him as a pitcher and speaks a lot to him as a baseball player and how he's really rounding out as someone who can not just throw the ball over the plate and throw with natural stuff on a fastball, but actually pitch as well, which to me, that's like zoom out. That's a macro thing that you see on guys who have sustained success and good careers. So I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, and unfortunately the Yankees couldn't take advantage of it. They couldn't take advantage of the good start. I mean, it was only 5 innings, but it was 1 run allowed. The offense, which was the pitiful lineup, couldn't score. All right, we mentioned Boston going to Boston and that they've been struggling since the All-Star break. The pitching matchups are Cortez versus Brian Bayo, Stroman versus Cutter Crawford, and then Rodon versus Tanner Houck. The Yankees play 2 more series against Boston, 3 at Fenway, and then later in the season 4 at home. And they're 2-4. So we talked about last time, like, oh, you think you have to win both. If you lose this series, even if you sweep the next one, you can't get I believe that means you can't get the tiebreaker. So,
I mean, they need. I'm not even worried about any of that shit right now. They just need to go out there and play good baseball. The fact that Nestor Cortez is going out on the mound in Fenway, who has been terrible on the road, is not great. The fact that the Red Sox had been struggling, they lost some late and close games, but they also got blown out on the last game. I don't know. And the fact that Alex Cora just got a new 3-year deal, he's going to be there for a long time because they understand that he's a very good manager, because he's a very good manager. He gets the most out of his players. He has a way of being a player manager, but actually motivating and getting the absolute most talent he can, squeezing the talent out of the guys that he has. And I can't not appreciate what he's done over there and acknowledge the fact that they have a better manager in their dugout than the Yankees do, and it's not even close. So he's going to use this stretch as fuel. And the fact that the Yankees are reeling right now, got swept by the Mets, he would love to come out there and kick their ass and just bury them a little bit further. He would love that. And how is he going to do it? He's going to exploit their weaknesses. He's going to walk the guys that can actually hit. He's going to run
Judge is
all
not going to
over.
see anything in this series.
If it's Nevarez, if it's Wells behind the plate, get ready to throw. If you're pitching against the Red Sox, they better have a very good game plan on keeping the runners close to first base as much as possible. It can't just be on the catchers, because if you just have it on the catchers, they're going to run wild. I don't care who's back there. They're going to run wild.
Yep.
And, Nestor being the first one out there with deception and being able to kind of hold guys on with some of the things that he does, he needs to do that. But I mean, Nestor Cortez is the veteran guy that we're looking at right now who needs to stop the bleeding, and going into Fenway needs to set a tone and come out there and pitch well for the first 3 to 4 innings. We need to see him putting up zeros and allow the Yankees to hopefully go out there and grab a lead. And they need to grab this first game. It's an important game, because if they don't,
especially because Bayo's not been good this year. He's got 5.27 ERA. Cutter Crawford and Tanner Houck have both been effective pitchers this year.
Yeah. And you got Marcus Stroman, who steady Eddie, like he's a guy that he's probably going to get 5 to 6 innings, keep them in the game. Yankees have to hit, bottom line. And then who knows, with that third game with Carlos Rodon, we don't know what we're going to get. The last version of Rodon was very good. If he can build off of that and find some success, then outstanding. But there's also the very high possibility that he goes out there and gives up 4 to 5 runs in 3 innings and he reverts back to that guy. So I think this first game with Nestor Cortez is really important, and he just hasn't done it on the road. So he needs to turn over a new leaf, man, in some capacity. Keep the runners close, because that's going to be a big storyline. And keep that run low total very low for the Yankees to actually do something.
The interesting thing is how the Red Sox do this weekend against the Yankees could actually make or break what they do at the deadline, because their ownership seems a little bit in the middle on, do we want to add to this team or do we want to just do nothing and continue to build for the future? And if you sweep the Red Sox this weekend, they're probably not going to do anything at the deadline. If they take 2 out of 3 from you, they could very well go out and add at the deadline, because they need bullpen help. I think they need starting rotation help. Their lineup, I think, is probably pretty good, but they need some pitching help.
Yeah. And again, motivations, when Cora has motivation, like I see it different than I see most other teams and managers, because for some reason he's got the right buttons. He knows how to push those buttons with these guys, and he understands the circumstances. He understands the gravity of a team like the Yankees, who just got swept by the Mets. How bad it would look if they struggled and lost the series or got swept by the Red Sox. You can't go Mets and Red Sox back to back with the New York media. You're just going to get absolutely crushed. And in the old days, this type of thing, a lot of people are saying after getting swept by the Mets, you're looking at a potential managerial change. As much as I want to
fire the manager.
Yeah, as much as I want to do that, and I've called for a change over the past 3 years. I still want it to happen.
It's not going to happen though.
It's not going to happen because that's not what they're doing. But at the same time, you get beat around by the Red Sox, or here's the thing, like, you may lose the series, but if you get exploited by the Red Sox as well, if Alex Cora comes out and makes you look bad, based on managerial decisions or things that you did, or just exploits it in a smarter way, which I do expect to happen, then it's going to be even worse. It's going to be even worse.
But it's even worse. What does even worse mean? They're not going to fire Boone Monday morning. If Aaron Judge gets walked 20 times this weekend and the cleanup hitter goes 0 for 50 and they allow 12 stolen bases a game, Boone's still not going to get fired. So what do you like? Even worse. Yeah, we're going to be more angry. The media is going to have more questions. Boone's going to stutter more in his post-game press conference. Sure, but they're still going to continue on their merry way.
And that's exactly where the problem lies. The accountability from the top all the way down to the bottom of this organization. The accountability is not there. When you struggle or you don't do something right over an extended period of time and time again, there is no accountability. There's not even the fear of a job being lost. None of that is there. Alex Cora just got a 3-year deal. If he comes in and outmanages, then the table is set for something to happen. But you're right, it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. I'm terrified Boone's going to get a 3-year deal. I'm terrified they're going to announce Boone on a 3-year extension.
You know what looked good? Here's another positive. Positive number two for the Mets series. Can you guess what it is? Okay. Mike Harkey walking out to the mound to talk to the pitcher. Kind of liked it. Kind of liked the look of it. Kind of liked the look of Mike Harkey walking out of the dugout, a little managerial trot, and saying some words to the pitcher. Make Mike Harkey the manager for the rest of the season. See how the guys play. I bet they play better.
Dominguez is going to be starting his rehab soon, also reported, which I think is like way ahead of schedule. Didn't they talk about 8 weeks when he went down with the oblique, which we figured took him to at least middle of August, late August, but could be starting rehab.
It's still going to be middle of August. It's still like rehab.
No, I think we thought that he was shut down for 8 weeks when he went down.
I don't know. Timelines are what? They're
timelines with the Yankees are
word salad.
Word salad.
Yes, he needs to come out. He needs to come out and play well. I need him to rehab and be healthy and play all 9 innings in the field, get at bats.
So what? You call him up in 2 weeks?
The savior. Yes, you call him up in 2 weeks.
Jason Dominguez, savior, August 5th. Let's write.
Put him in the 4 spot.
Well, that might be a jinx. That might be a jinx.
Put him in the leadoff spot. Put him at the top of the lineup and see what happens.
We all know that bills can pile up and unexpected expenses can hit you when you least expect them. One service you should not be overpaying for is your wireless provider. That's why I'm happy Mint Mobile is sponsoring today's show. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans and hello to Mint Mobile for just $15 per month when you purchase a 3-month plan. And when they say $15 a month, they mean it. What you see is what you get. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number and contacts along with you. This is an amazing offer that I know you're going to love because I have used it and love it too. There was some initial hesitation when switching over, but the process was super easy and the Mint Mobile bills you in a straightforward manner. There's no hidden fees or anything like that. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Bronx. Once again, that's mintmobile.com/Bronx. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 per month at mintmobile.com/Bronx. $45 upfront payment is required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabyte on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. You can go to see Mint Mobile for details. Mailbags. We haven't done these in a while. First one. Herr Hans. Jer Hans. Herr Hans.
J-E-R Hans.
Hey guys, big fan of the show and never miss an episode. My mailbag is about Anthony Volpe. Minus the error in the last Orioles game, his defense has been stellar again this year. But after his scorching start to this year, his hitting has fallen off so far that Boone can't seem to find a place to plug him into the lineup. If his struggles continue, what are your thoughts on letting Peraza come up and play a full series or two? His defense will be equal and the hitting can't be much worse. Thanks. Please wake up, Yankees.
So Peraza has been not good.
I'm getting his minor league numbers right now.
It's not the solution. The problem is that when you're looking at a guy who's struggling, as Anthony Volpe, and yes, has he had a little bit of a better start to the second half? Yeah, he has. We'll see what happens. But I think you gotta. Peraza's not the answer. Peraza's not the answer.
685 OPS for Peraza in AAA this year, which 685 OPS in AAA is 550.
Yeah.
Major leagues.
Here's
the problem.
The upside's with Volpe at the plate. It's not with Peraza. And defensively, whether Peraza was deemed as the better glove or not, Volpe's the reigning Gold Glove guy at shortstop in the American League. So you're not losing anything there. So you play the talent.
Peraza's opportunity to play every day was in the second half of last year when they had no answer at third base, and they just chose not to do it. And when Cashman was asked about it in that GM meetings powwow where he freaked out amongst all those reporters, he got very defensive and said Peraza was blocked. He was blocked by who? Josh Donaldson, who got released, and then a recovering from injury DJ LeMahieu? Like, that was the opportunity when we're not competing for a playoff spot to see what you have in Peraza, and they didn't do it. Why did they not do it? Because he's not a major league player, and they know that. So he's not the answer at shortstop. Is Volpe the answer at shortstop? I don't know. But he's not going anywhere. They stuck with him all last year through all the struggles. They're going to stick with him this year through all the struggles. And frankly, they're probably going to stick with him through 2 more years of struggles before they finally give up on him.
And he did play from August 22nd to October 1st last year. Peraza played 33 games. It was just about every day. And
that was 33 starts? No, I don't think
32 starts.
Oh, wow.
32 starts.
Okay.
They actually went 18 and 15 in those games. But he hit 198 with a 542 OPS.
Solid.
I mean, he got, he played, the last week of August, all of September. Like,
yeah, he's had
literally every game in September. He has had opportunity.
It was, Wells had opportunity at the end of the year as well. And
Wells was a September call-up. Peraza was not a September call-up.
No, I know that he came in after, but I'm saying they've had these guys come up in situations where they haven't hit. Obviously, Wells has earned another opportunity and is a better hitter, but Peraza's not hitting. He hasn't hit. He doesn't hit. He's not a hitter. He's not a major league hitter. He's just not. You look across the diamond to the Red Sox series, and you got Rob Refsnyder over there, carving himself out a nice little major league career. Good for him.
10 years later. Lee Jones, our pal, says, hey guys, despite yet another blown save from Holmes in Game 3 of the Orioles series, the Yankees won the series against Baltimore, so I guess Boone's job is safe for now. However, let's say we play 500 ball for the remainder of the season, make the playoffs, but then get eliminated in the division series, which prompts Hal to finally fire Boone. If this were the case, would you both be on board with signing Alex Cora as your manager? Uh-oh. I guess this is outdated.
Yeah, it came in before yesterday. Hell yeah, I would have. Dude, if you want to make any trade, I think Alex Cora is a very good manager. I like the way he manages. I always have. He's been a thorn in our side because he's good at what he does, and he gets the most out of it. He's a good baseball guy and a good player guy because he actually demands that they are at their best. He demands that
there's also accountability. He's very often called players out.
The reason Alex Verdugo is on the Yankees right now
is
because of the accountability set by Alex Cora. In fact, now that I'm thinking about that, you're looking at what's going on here. Red Sox fans are laughing at the fact that Alex Verdugo over the past month and a half has been literally the worst player in baseball because they probably saw this coming. They probably expected these things. When Alex Cora goes out there and makes a stand and expects these guys to be professionals, to do their job, to improve, to work on their craft, to take advantage of situations, they do it. There's accountability there. Some people don't like that. Aaron Boone, the opposite of what Alex Cora is. And maybe that's why I like Alex Cora so much, because I do believe he's the opposite. I think he actually makes decisions in game. I think he looks at the flow and sees what's in front of him and can actually make adjustments. I think he sees the field. He is a baseball guy and knows knows the things, has spent time in a dugout and has earned the opportunity to do this. And then he makes these decisions that are good. And he has the ears of his team. He's got this team. Like, he has his team 100%. I don't think anybody's ever questioned that. So, yeah. Would I have loved Alex Cora in the dugout for the Yankees? Yes, I would. It's not going to happen. It's probably never going to happen. But they need the anti-Boone. They need someone to come in and do something different. And they're not on the same page. The Yankees are not on the same page. They don't believe that, clearly.
So Seb asks, and we kind of touched on these recently, but maybe there's something else we can say about his question. He says, huge fan of the show and first-time mailbagger. My question is a two-parter. Why can't the Yankees hit with runners in scoring position? Is it just not a valued stat anymore, or maybe Boone just isn't emphasizing it enough? Either way, most nights they are 1 for 6 or something low like that. Part 2 of the question, what can the Yankees do with its current roster to try and fix this stat?
Better baseball players helps. That's one.
Yeah, I mean, right now we look at the runners in scoring position numbers for the Mets series, and you're like, well, yeah. Other than two guys, there's no hitters in the lineup. Everyone's OPS is below 700, so of course they're not going to get hits with runners in scoring position. But this is not just an issue isolated to 2024, as you pointed out. This is a going on 6+ year issue with the Yankees, and I think that does come down to the players. Number one, it's the players on the roster and the types of hitters that you have, but also number two, it's a lack of approach at the plate for game situations. And like, I've criticized Gleyber Torres for this time and time again. It just never seems like he has a cohesive approach at the plate. And it's like, you're now in the leadoff spot ahead of Soto and Judge. You're going to see a lot of pitchers in the strike zone. He's not, he did hit a home run. He got another hit, but like, he's just up there hacking. He's always just up there hacking, never with an approach at the plate. And I feel like that's an issue with this team when they have runners in scoring position, when it's just a sac fly that you need, or you need to hit a ball on the ground to the right side to move a runner over, they don't change their approach. It's still the same approach. And in certain big leverage spots, that approach is not going to be executed.
And it's a problem when you don't have an identity as an offense as well, and that does go back to the approach. The identity of the Brett Gardner leadoff led Yankees was they had and even you go back to the championship teams and into 2009 and a little bit further past that, there was an approach. They worked the count. They made the pitchers work, especially at the top of the order. They made them throw pitches. They would look at balls. They would make sure that pitch count will go up. There was an approach. There was an identity to what the team is, and then they would make you pay for for getting into long counts, for getting into situations that are not ideal with runners on. And they're not able to execute that. And you're right. I think the game plan up and down the lineup, I don't know what it is. I know what it is when Juan Soto's up there every single time. I know what it is when Aaron Judge is up there, and I think that's changing for him. And he has to tweak his approach because of the walks and how few pitches that he's getting. But the rest of the guys, you're right. They're going out there and swinging and just trying to get on base in some capacity, but there's no actual game plan. There's no real identity to what they're doing and how they're doing it. And if you have inferior talent, you better come up with some type of a game plan and work on that game plan and work on that craft and try to figure out some gritty type of mentality where you can get up there and at least do something positive. And if getting a hit's not the positive thing, working the count is the positive thing. Fouling balls off, positive thing. Getting that pitch count up on the starting pitcher is a positive thing. Things like that can grind down, wear down a team on the opposing side and lead to success. But there's not a willingness to do that, it seems.
Verdugo especially seems like he's up there throwing shit against the wall. Because like you saw him try and bunt the other night.
I got no problem with that.
He bunted. He was trying to bunt for a hit, and then after the game, Boone was asked, was that a called bunt, or did the player do it on his own? And Boone dodged the question at first and said, it's a 2-for-1. Do you know what he meant by a 2-for-1? A 2-for-1.
No.
It was kind of a 2-for-1.
2-for-1.
What he meant by that is...
the Yankees called it and he wanted to do it?
No, it was a 2-for-1, so he was bunting, because the infield was back. So he was bunting for a hit. But if it doesn't work out, it's going to be a sac bunt. So it's a 2-for-1. And so the reporter followed up with Boone and said, so did you call that, or did Verdugo do it on his own? And Boone said, yeah, he did it on his own. So Verdugo is up there just throwing shit against the wall. He's going for 2-for-1s.
You know what the camera shot where the camera panned on the broadcast for that particular at bat before Verdugo stepped into the box but had a bat in his hand? It was Carlos Mendoza going like this, saying, "Watch out for the bunt. Watch out for the bunt." He was literally doing that. They had him on camera doing that. Watch out for the bunt.
Maybe Verdugo saw that and thought Mendoza's still on the Yankees and giving the signal for a bunt.
So, and like in the play, like there, you're struggling. The Yankees are struggling. You're trying to get two guys into scoring position, move the runners over with no outs. You know, that's one out. You lay down a bunt down first base, try to get out of the box. If you push it past the pitcher, it's a base hit. Like I get it. It's not a 2-for-1. It's a bunting for a base hit, but that it's a bunt, so it allows you to.
It's a honey
the
pot.
first baseline,
it's a Scott Boras honey pot.
Jesus Christ! It allows the runners to advance. Yes, but he was bunting for a base hit down the line.
2-for-1. He didn't do anything wrong. Kevin Sweeney says, guys, have you ever seen the Savannah Bananas? I have. The Yankees used to have a band. I think they need one again. A guy on stilts, a princess, and I think a guy in a banana suit should play the shortstop for them, not Volpe. And he sent a link to the Yankees brass band, which I can only imagine is from like the 20s or who the hell knows.
The barnstorming days.
The Percival Canyons are a local team, college kids on summer break, a step below the Cape Cod League. I bet you know their first base coach, and it's Rafael Furcal. You remember Rafael Furcal?
Furcal, yeah, I remember Furcal.
Is Furcal, not Furcal?
It's Furcal.
Okay.
He was a very good Atlanta Brave.
James, very good?
Yeah. Outstanding. Fantastic.
What do you think
was
his
the word
career
that, what was the word
OP
that K used that drove you insane?
outstanding? What do you think Rafael Furcal's career OPS plus was?
I don't know, because we didn't use that number back when he was playing, so it didn't matter.
96. He was below league average. James Greenspan says, hey guys, Scott told a story about his AAA Greg Bird bobblehead last episode. So this is from a few weeks ago before he went on vacation. And now it's a collector's item because he skipped AAA on his way up. It made me want to share a story of my favorite bobblehead, which randomly is the 2021 Texas Rangers Corey Kluber bobblehead. The story is that Kluber signed with the Rangers in 2020 and ended up pitching just one inning for them before an injury ended his season. When they signed him, they commissioned the bobbleheads, and they never ended up giving them away because of the injury. Next year, Kluber signed with the Yankees. In May of 2021, Kluber and the Yankees visited Texas, and the Rangers decided to give that away. And on that night, he pitched a no-hitter against them. That is a very, very cool story.
It's crazy. It really is. I remember that clear as day. The fact that he came over, they gave the bobblehead out because they just had the inventory. They're like, let's not waste it. Let's not send this to, somewhere out of the states and donate it somewhere so the kids can have a bobblehead of Corey Kluber. No, let's not put it on discount. Let's give it away. Let's play tribute to the guy. He's had a great career. We're proud that he was here, and then he throws a no-hitter against the team. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's a bit of an FU to the organization a little bit, but also a nod. I don't even know what it is, but it's definitely one that you'll remember forever.
I can confidently say that is the only time in history a guy will pitch a no-hitter on the road against a team that gave away a bobblehead of that guy.
In the opposing uniform.
Yeah.
Very funny. I mean, by the way, who's the last person you would think would have a podcast currently?
I know, Klub. The what's it called? Klub?
Corey Kluber. I don't know what the name of it is, but Corey Kluber has a podcast. He's got a whole bunch of Yankees that are
He just
there.
had Judge on.
The fact that Corey Kluber, who never said a goddamn word, who had no emotion in any of his years playing baseball, literally wouldn't say anything, which is like a robot, has a podcast is amusing to me.
Everyone's out there today, Scott, having a podcast. Back when we started this podcast, we were literally the only Yankees podcast, except the Daily News' 5-minute daily podcast.
Fine Sand had one.
Wasn't he the Daily News?
Yeah, he was the one who was running that.
Alrighty. Well,
here we go. Red Sox about to get run all over. They need to again, keys to this series. Work the Red Sox pitching in some way, somehow. Go deeper into counts somehow, some way.
I think I would just like to see Soto Judge or Judge Soto lead off to start, and then just put the names in back of them. At least
And
come
play
out.
Stanton. Just start him. Just play him.
Well, I
Put him
mean,
in the DH spot.
listen, I agree. What are they at this point? If he's not going to do minor league rehab games, what's the point of having him take more cage swings? Like,
Look, there's no point. You put him in the 4 spot. Literally, the worst in baseball. You can't do worse. It's not
you're gonna be worse than you're still gonna be last in baseball.
You cannot do worse. That's crazy that's not an exaggeration, but that's a literal fact. Cannot be worse. So put him in there. What are we doing?
The cleanup production thing would be not only the worst in Yankees history if this continues, it'd probably be one of the worst in Major League Baseball history. To have a cleanup spot produce a below 600 OPS, like, to wrap your head around how bad that is. That means you're not getting on base. You're not hitting for average. You're not hitting. You're getting no base runners. You're getting no one reaching base in any capacity out of your cleanup spot.
It's really bad. That's not a good thing. It's a bad thing to happen to your cleanup spot, who's supposed to be the one that's, a run producing slot in your lineup.
If your number 9 hitter had a 580 OPS, people would be like, damn, they really need to upgrade that spot because that's killing them.
Yeah.
And this is the cleanup spot.
Yeah. Oh, and Brian Cashman, the other thing you could do, go make a move. Make this team better, please.
Nah,
Don't
there's
just
just a lot
wait.
of competition. This a lot of teams vying for guys out there. It's everything's really expensive. We were in on that move. We just didn't like the value.
Make the team better.
All right, that's going to wrap it up, and we'll talk to you again on Monday after the Boston series.